Hi everybody, I'm back. So this is the third time I have tried to film this video. The first two times I tried to film it, my iPad ran out of storage space, so hopefully it should work and save properly on my phone. So today I am here to wrap up my July thriller horror dark academia TBR and talk about a few current reads I'm reading for August, and also an unpopular book opinion from Reading with Meg's video about Frida McFadden's books. So first I'm going to do my wrap-up for Gabby Reads' Summerween marathon, which was from July 5th to July 12th. So these books were read at the beginning of July. The first book for the prompt, Night Sky on the cover, is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This book was a 5-star reread that kept me out of a slump. And to answer the discussion questions in the back, I couldn't really relate to very many of the characters, but if I had a favorite, I would have to pick Jules. And she was the most reliable character to read from. And the setting helped aid my experience because the haunted island really added to the atmosphere of the whole plot, and it added to the overall mystery of the book. So as I said, this is in the top tier of my tier ranking list, which is simply the best. I got these tier ranking list headers from Gabby Reads also. The next book fits the prompt for Gabby's readathon, a book that has been on your shelf for more than a year. And this book is by a local Portland author named Megan Gillis. Tuck is slow to understand the circumstances that have driven her family to an uninhabited island off the coast of Maine, the former home of her deceased grandmother, where she spent her childhood summers. Squatting there now, she must care for her spirited young daughter and scrape together enough money to leave before the winter arrives or before they are found out. Relying on the island for sustenance and answers, bladder rack, rose ships, tenacious little green crabs, smells held by the damp walls of the house, field guides and religious text, a failed invention left behind by her missing father. Tuck lives moment to moment through the absurdity, beauty, paranoia, and hunger that through her life as her husband struggles to detox. Exquisitely written and formally daring, Lungfish tells the story of a woman grappling with the lies she has been told and those she told herself to arrive at the truth of who she is and where she must go. Megan Gillis's debut is a brilliant and heartbreaking novel about addiction, doubt, marriage, motherhood, and learning to see it in the dark. So as I just said, this book is in the tier ranking of simply the best, which is where all of the 5-star books are. The next book is another debut author. This book deserves all the hype that it gets. It's very well written, it's intense, and I also, like other reviewers have said, when they talked about this book, the commentary about influencer culture, I think, is really thoroughly discussed. Julie Chan, a supermarket cashier with little to lose, finds herself thrust into the glamorous but perilous world of her late twin sister, Chloe Van Heusen, a popular influencer. Separated at a young age, the identical twins were polar opposites and rarely spoke except for one viral video that Chloe initiated. Finding my long-lost twin and buying her a home. Emotional. #emotional. When Julie discovers Chloe's lifeless body under mysterious circumstances, she seizes the chance to live the life she's always envied. Transforming into Chloe is easier than expected. Julie effortlessly adopts her sister's luxurious lifestyle, complete with designer clothes, a meticulous skincare routine, and millions of adoring followers. However, Julie somehow realizes that Chloe's seemingly picture-perfect life was anything but. Haunted by Chloe's untimely death and struggling to fit into a new privileged circle, Julie faces mounting challenges during a week-long island retreat with her twins' exclusive group of friends. As events spiral out of control, Julie uncovers the sinister forces that may have led to her sister's demise and realizes that she might be the next target. Julie Chan is Dead is a razor-sharp, diabolical debut thriller from a promising young talent. That last line of this description is definitely true. I love Leanne Zhang's writing. And as I said when I started the review, this book gives a lot of good talking points about influencer culture and the dangers and downsides of it. So on my tier ranking, this book is in between 4.5 and 5 stars. So it's on its way up to simply the best, but it's in the second level of the tier ranking, which is I Love That Journey for me. The next book was a book that was recommended by Gabby, which she read in a recent reading blog that she posted. I think it was either during Summerween or after Summerween ended. And this book gets 5 stars for the main setting and how intense it was. I was actually really worried for the safety of the girl in this book who was kidnapped. Marshall Miller would have remembered her face even if he hadn't seen it on a missing poster. When a young woman goes missing in his small town, the investigation hinges on Marshall's haunting sighting of her crying in the backseat of a police car driven by a cop named Maddox. There's only one problem. No local cop named Maddox exists. But the speeding ticket he handed to Marshall certainly does. Dealing with police and media is heady stuff for a teenager, the son of a single mother, but Marshall is sure he can handle it until the shocking day when his reliability as a witness implodes. Now scorned and shamed, he finds unlikely allies as he confronts the ancient secrets behind his small town's peaceful facade and learns the truth about his own family. Lost Man's Lane is a coming-of-age tale that proves why its author has been hailed as a master by Stephen King and one who constantly offers eerie, gripping storytelling by Dean Koontz. This book is another book that is on the Simply the Best tier. This author is totally new to me, and I can't wait to read more from him. I definitely agree with the blurbs that Stephen King and Dean Koontz have given to him. I loved his writing style, and obviously, since I'm from Maine, I love the Maine setting. The next book was the Read with Jenna book club pick for January, and it finally came at the library right before I went on vacation. Came in at the library on July 14th, I think. Arriving at the University of Edinburgh for her first term, Penn knows her divorced parents back in Canada are hiding something from her. She believes she'll find the answers by retracing her father's steps in Scotland, where an old friend of his, now a famous writer known as Lord Lennox, still lives. When Lennox invites her to spend a weekend at his centuries-old estate, she meets his enveloping, seemingly perfect family who charm her, baffle her with their Britishness, and do almost anything to make her feel welcome, apart from answering her questions. As she continues pulling at the thread of her family's secrets, Penn falls in love for the first time, while much of what she thought she knew falls apart. Meanwhile, Penn's best friend Alice, an inspiring actor, has come to Scotland for her own reasons. She sees Edinburgh as her portal to the theater. The star of this year's production, she's making the most of the power she wields as an object of desire until an affair with her tutor begins to slip from her control. Witty, warm, and wildly unputdownable, the life cycle of the common octopus is at once a love story and an irresistible mystery. Its celebration of female friendship, a story of campus life and sexual awakening, and ultimately an exploration of the many ways women can become mothers in this world and how looking back can help us move forward. So I can't relate to the aspect of the characters becoming mothers because I'm not going to have kids myself, but I definitely liked the themes of friendship and the love story that builds between Penn and the guy she meets. And I think that the student-teacher relationship between Alice and her professor really adds mounted tension to the storyline. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and it is in the tier ranking listing. I love that journey for me. The next book is Ashley Winstead's new release from March 18th. This book will bury me. This is a thriller about a girl who goes to solve the mystery of her father who passed away, and I will read the description right now. After the unexpected death of her father, college student Jane Sharp longs for a distraction from her grief. She becomes obsessed with the morbid world of true crime, befriending armchair detectives who teach her how to hunt killers from afar. In the dark internet underground, Jane finds friendship, purpose, and even glory. So when the shocking deaths of 3 college girls in Dauphin, Idaho, capture the world's imagination, Jane and her friends are determined to beat everyone racing to solve the case, but the murders turn out to be stranger than anyone expected. Details don't add up, and the police are cagey, and there seems to be more media hype and internet theorizing than actual evidence. While Jane and her sleuths get closer, every answer only begs new questions. They begin to suspect their killer may be smarter and more prolific than anyone they faced before. Placing themselves in the center of the story seems to feel more and more like walking into a trap. Told 1 year after the astounding events that concluded the case and left the world reeling, Jane's searing confession of what really happened during the Dauphin massacres included details that change the world knows it well, with either her from being misjudged by history or undoing. The tape of the cover jacket is covering up some of the words in the description. So this is the third thriller book that I have read by Ashley Winstead. The first one, which I read in 2023, was called In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which was a dark academia romance at a college reunion where the students are trying to figure out who killed their friend, and that book got 5 stars. The second book I read is called Midnight is the Darkest Hour, which I think tried way too hard to be a reinterpretation of Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, which I already don't really enjoy. So that book got 2.5 stars. And this book in my tier ranking is going to be in I Love That Journey for me, because I loved Jane's journey about discovering how her father died. And do you think here's a couple discussion questions. Do you think amateur online sleuths are justified in doing what they do, or should they leave sleuthing to the professionals? So I just started to follow true crime channels recently. I was never really into it before, but I need something more to talk to people about than reviewing TV shows and talking about Friends and Gilmore Girls. So I decided to do some research on true crime channels, and I came across this podcast called Quiet Crime Weekly that is done by this couple of people named Stephanie Harlow and Derek Levasseur. Derek Levasseur is a retired private investigator from Rhode Island. I don't know where Stephanie's from, but Derek is from Rhode Island, and he also has his own true crime podcast called Detective Perspective. I have really enjoyed following these cases. The recent series that Crime Weekly did was about the submersible that went under the ocean a couple of years ago to look at the ruins of the Titanic and how all the people died. And the video that the video series that they made basically talked about what a narcissist the guy who was the leader of this submersible journey was, and actually dangerous it was for these people, and how they should have not gone down under the ocean in the first place because the submersible was not safe to go on. Why do you think that Jane is drawn to true crime forums in the first place? I think the reason why she's so drawn to it is because she wants to figure out how her dad died and if there are any similar true crime cases that are similar to the way that her dad died. As for me, the reason why I got into true crime all of a sudden was because I just find the videos really interesting. And I find that there's a commonality in some of these murders of guys marrying women and then killing their wives for the life insurance money, which I think is really not very good of them to do. They should just be honest. And if they're not really marrying for love, or if they have underhanded tactics, the women should just divorce them instead of losing their lives over a marriage that was fake. So this book is in the tier ranking level of I love that journey for me, because I love Jane's journey through the true crime forums of how she uncovers the mystery behind her dad's murder. Now, for two current reads for this TBR that I'm reading, this is the final book in the trilogy with Her Majesty's Royal Coven. It just was released a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really excited to wrap up this series. I'm sad at the same time because I have loved all of these characters a lot. The first book, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, was 2.75 stars, and the second book, The Shadow Cabinet, which was last year's release, got 4 stars. This book is going to probably be in the same rating as the second book, or maybe even a little bit higher. I'm anticipating this will be on the cusp of 4.5 and 5 stars, like Lost Man's Lane. Currently in this book, I am on page 157. The next book is Olive V. Blake's new release from April. It is called Gifted and Talented, and it's a dark academia book about 3 kids named Thyre, Meredith, and Arthur, who are after their dead father's fortune, and they're kind of competing in games similar to the Hunger Games to get their dead father's money. I just started this book on Sunday, and I am on chapter 8. Now to the unpopular book opinion from Reading with Meg's bookish unpopular opinions video that was posted before I went on vacation. So in the unpopular opinion that she mentioned, it was mentioned that Frida McFadden's books kind of are copy and paste books of Stephen King. And so the 2 books that she talked about that this unpopular opinion references are The Housemaid, which I gave 5 stars to, but decided to unhaul it because the rest of the series really sucks. And I didn't really like the other 2 books in the series. And then the other book that seems to be very similar to Stephen King is The Crash. This is Frida McFadden's release from January 28th. So this book is said to be a copy of Misery by Stephen King, which is about a guy who gets into a car crash in the middle of winter, and he's a famous author who writes horror books, and his obsessed fan takes him in to take care of him, and then gets really angry because the book didn't end the way that she wanted. This book is a little bit different in plot, but I think the overarching theme of a girl who is taken in to a person that is taken in to be cared for in a snowstorm is very similar to Misery. Although what makes this book different from Misery is that instead of being an author, this girl is 8 months pregnant. Her name is Tegan, and she gets in an accident while she is driving on an icy road in Maine, and these people named Hank and Polly are the people who take in Tegan after her car accident to help her recover. And I don't think they go to as many extremes to try to kill her as Annie Wilkes does in Misery, but it's still the same plot. I really enjoy this book. It's probably one of my favorite Frida McFadden books after The Housemaid and Never Lie. And then I've also read, as I've said before, I have also read the other 2 books in the Housemaid series, which I each gave 2.5 stars to. And then I also read The Teacher, which I could not get into. I read that back in February, and I just could not root for the couple's relationship because it was a relationship between a student and a teacher, sort of like Elizabeth and Ross and Friends. So I also gave that book 2.5 stars. And I'm really excited because The Housemaid is getting made into a movie that's going to be, I think, on Netflix with Amanda Seyfried from Mamma Mia and Mean Girls. So I'm really excited for that movie to come out. And as far as other bookish unpopular opinions, one other general unpopular opinion that Meg talked about in her video is pumping out content. I can agree with this unpopular opinion because as a booktuber myself who is not quite as well known and popular as other booktubers, I feel burnt out a lot of the time trying to get videos out for people to watch, and then I get disappointed when they don't really get as many views as I'm expecting them to. And to kind of go along with this unpopular opinion, I was watching another YouTube video yesterday about how booktuber content gets too repetitive, and I can agree with that too, because a lot of the booktubers I follow, like Sarah or Haley or Rachel or Destiny or even Reading with Meg or Emmy Rossum or people like that, I mean, some people read different books in a different variety, and that's how I got some books for my TBR this month, like the Mendel Hawks hockey romance series, for example. But, like, a lot of these other booktubers seem to read the same books, like Better Than the Movies, Boys of Tolman series, Zodiac Academy, Chestnut Spring series, which I loved, stuff like that. And I mean, I have had mixed opinions of some of the books that these booktubers have reviewed, but even some of the books in this stack I just reviewed, that was for the thriller, horror, dark academia books. Some booktubers have given these, well, not Lost Man's Lane, because that was from Gabby's recent video, but like for Julie Chan is Dead, that book has been reviewed by a couple of other booktubers. I think besides Gabby, with Cindy and Carrie Can Read and a couple of other people have read it, and they've given it pretty decent reviews. I think this book has been really well received by the book community, and it was well received by me as well. But there are some other books that have like mixed reviews from people. Like, for example, one series I'm starting to read in September, which is next month, for my TBR, is the Zodiac Academy series, because this seems to be a dark academia series that people like Larry and a couple of others are hyping up. And I've heard it's a bully romance, which I'm not really that into, but I'll have to see what I think of the first book before I go forward with the 10-book series, and that book is on my TBR for next month. Have you read any of these books? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. For upcoming videos, I will be doing tier ranking Lorelei's relationships for my character analysis series for Friends and Gilmore Girls characters. Kathleen and I will be on the radio on Sunday night for episode 3 of our From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR podcast. But in addition to that, we will also be celebrating my birthday. I will be playing a bunch of songs that were popular in the 90s and early 2000s when I was in middle school and high school. And we will also be talking about the anniversary of the legislation that was passed in the 1970s to allow children with disabilities to go to school in public school, and how that legislation is being threatened by the Trump administration. So be sure to tune in on WMPG from 5 to 6:30 on Sunday, August 10th. You will love this radio show. We're going to have a lot of fun. And we are also celebrating my 40th birthday a couple of weeks early. My birthday is on August 26th, which is the release date of Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. So I hope everybody has a good week. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.